Hey, all cinephile Mike, your friendly neighborhood cinephile is here, and this is episode 16 of Oscar Rewind 2024 edition, my bi-weekly series of videos where I revisit the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. My hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe revisit something you haven't seen in a while. I will be giving a brief spoiler free review of the film, discussing its award season history, its box office information, and all sorts of other great information. But before I jump in, as of May 1st, the other day, I launched my official website, cinephilemike.com, where you can find all my reviews from this season and last, as well as a fun treat coming in July when Cinephile Mike turns 4. Yes, I started critiquing films during the pandemic, and I will be releasing all of that information soon, as well as exclusive movie review and information that you can only find on the website. So, again, if you haven't already, check out cinephilemike.com. All right, getting into today's film, I am discussing Miramax's Basquiat. Now, this film, chronicling part of the artist's life, was released in 1996 and was written and directed by Julian Schnabel, based on a story by Lech Majewski, apologies, and a short story by John Bowe. Now, during its theatrical run, the film had a total domestic and worldwide box office take because there was no international box office information presented, a grand total of $3,011,195. Now, in regards to the ratings, there's a slight disparity between the critics and the audience, but it's based on very skewed numbers. So, Rotten Tomatoes shows that the film has a critical response of 67%, but that's only made up of a collection of 30 reviews, whereas the audience score, made up of over 10,000 reviews, shows a rating of 77%. So, do I fall closer to the critics, to the audience? Much higher? Far below? Let's talk. Basquiat lands on Rewind this season as a result of its lead performer. In the role of neo-expressionist artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, Jeffrey Wright, who celebrated a career-first Oscar nomination this year for American Fiction, turned in one of his earliest feature film roles. In regards to the film's award season journey, it was a smaller one. A Golden Lion nominee at the Venice Film Festival, writer-director Schnabel saw this film receive a special recognition for excellence in filmmaking from the National Board of Review. Jeffrey Wright was nominated at the Independent Spirit Awards for Best Debut Performance, and one of his co-stars, Benicio del Toro, not only was nominated but won Best Supporting Male Performance at the Independent Spirit Awards as well in his role of Basquiat's fictional friend Benny Dalmo. Now, as I said, Basquiat is more of a variant biopic of the artist in the later part of his life when he begins to gain recognition as an artist. And it kind of jumps forward in short bursts where we check in on the artist at different times. I say variant because we're introduced to a series of characters who Basquiat interacts with, some of whom are real historical figures and some who are fictional or renamed versions of people that were in Basquiat's life. So the film opens in 1979 with Jean Michel living in a cardboard box in the New York City village. And at this point, he was building anonymity by posting various quotes and graffiti art all over the village, spray painting them and signing them the name Samo, which was how he started getting recognized. Now, his best friend and main primary contact is Benny, played by Del Toro, and they frequent a diner where he meets and eventually begins a relationship with fellow struggling artist Gina, played by Claire Forlani. But is this more for the relationship or more for the place to stay? I leave that to you to decide. I mean, cardboard box. One day, a very brazen Basquiat sees Andy Warhol, played by David Bowie, wearing some of the real wigs that Warhol wore in real life, having lunch with famed Swiss art dealer Bruno Bischofberger, played by Dennis Hopper, and he sort of very forcefully pushes his cardboard art on them, impressing them both and leaving a mark. And this is where Basquiat's journey begins. As he develops a following and a fan base, he will begin to move up in the art world, kind of roving around with the likes of Albert Milo, not a real person, but a version of Schnabel himself, and I'll get to that in a moment, played by Gary Oldman, and Rene Ricard, the American artist and poet, played by Michael Wincott, amongst many others. Through a series of events, we will see Basquiat go from struggling artist living in cardboard to selling out shows in Manhattan thanks to all of the connections he makes and bounces around based on, who can support him where, to the point where he can even pick up the checks of Manhattan Wall Street types that seem to be mocking him that build to a open ending. So, given that this film is blending history and fictionalized elements, it makes Basquiat an interesting film because we wonder how much of this is accurately true. Now, where it does smartly avoid the common biopic angst is that it only focuses on his career, not the whole life. We meet him at near 20 years old. We don't worry about the early part of his life, but here he is now. And mini spoiler, my apologies to anyone unfamiliar with Basquiat. He did tragically die of a drug overdose at the age of 27 in 1988, but not before leaving his legacy. But again, given the fictional elements of the film, we don't see how much of a focus these different elements are. It's sort of just a bunch of little vignettes. We're left to wonder, was this a real event? Was this a real event? Is this fictionalized? Is it not? Let's give these little pockets and check ins over the span of approximately 8 years, and as a result, kind of faults a little bit in its narrative storytelling. In a runtime of under 2 hours, there are sometimes so many characters that we're introduced to that kind of pop in and out at different moments. We don't really get to see any of them fleshed out. And often it kind of impacts the development for Basquiat because we don't get to see a lot of events occur. We just get information dumps at different times from characters. And this is a problem. But what raises it is the incredible cast with moments that you almost wish you had more with. I mean, I named some of the heavy hitters previously, like Hopper and Gary Oldman and Benicio del Toro, but there are so many others who pop up in this film. I will admit, I just watched this film, finding it for Rewind. I hadn't seen it before, but, earlier in some of these crews, or even not, some of the bigger names, you will have these moments pop in with Willem Dafoe, Parker Posey, Courtney Love, Tatum O'Neal, Christopher Walken, and even a blink and you'll almost miss it very early performance by Sam Rockwell in one scene. Schnabel really stacked the deck with a lot of people. And let me talk a moment about him. It's interesting. He also, in addition to being an Oscar nominated filmmaker himself, is also a neo expressionist and was close friends with Basquiat. So that just makes me wonder why we couldn't get a more solid film. It's not a bad film, but it's not solid in just giving us a story. It's like we get these pockets. You almost wonder, would it have been better to have seen his relationship just with Andy Warhol, which was one of the bigger relationships in Basquiat's life? Or looking at the real person that inspired Benny. I mean, these are just my posits. Or had Schnabel made himself a character or cast someone to actually play the real version of him and focus on that? All over, it's unfortunately it's messy. But visually the film was a lot of fun to look at given how you get that 1980s style and vibe on those gritty streets of New York. So the visuals were quite entertaining. So where do I fall with this one? Basquiat for me is a 3. What saves it from going lower is the engaging performances. It's unfortunately not in the film structure. Wright clearly showed why he became the talent he is and commands the screen, and fellow standouts, especially Del Toro, Bowie, and Oldman, were a delight to see. Again, I just wish the film had a little bit more of a flow, not these quick cuts. But to each their own. If you would like to see Basquiat, as of last week, because originally I thought I was going to be renting this one along with you, but they just released this as of this recording about a week ago on Max. So you can catch the film streaming on Max now. And there we go. I hope everyone is enjoying Oscar Rewind. Please make sure you check out the website for all that great information and older reviews. Is there a film you're hoping I get to? We're only still just in the beginning of this season. Oscar Rewind is going to be going until November. So if you have a film you want to see, let me know. You can now email me through the website. If you like what you heard here, please continue to spread the word. Subscribe to the channel. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all forms of social media on Letterboxd. Let's talk movies, everybody. Happy watching. And until next time, everyone, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.